Manish, and I'll do that. And but let me also give you a little contextual thing about bioenergy and also linking that to sustainability, which
Sure,
is
sure. Yeah.
So the good thing of talking after Santosh is it gives you cues. So it was interesting. You mentioned about 150 years for accounting to reach where it is. So in the same way, if I look back, it took about 150 years ago, fossil fuels replaced biomass as the primary source of energy. And at the end of 150 years, it looks like it's getting nudged out. So that's the only thing in accounting say, I think you're stable. And here we are trying to see how we can nudge it out. Now, as far as biomass is concerned, it has not only been the genesis of fossil fuel, but without doubt the forerunner. Hence, when we talk of in the context of sustainability, that means decarbonization playing a role in energy transition. The advantage of bioenergy is it can address the entire value chain of energy, whether it's electricity, whether it's heating and cooling or cooking, whether it's mobility. So when we look at biomass or bioenergy, we have to look at it as equivalent of fossil fuels. So we have to look at it as solid, liquid, and gaseous. So just as we distinguish fossil fuels as solid, liquid, and gaseous, and within solid, liquid, gaseous, like if it's solid, we distinguish between lignite, we distinguish between coal, different grades of coal. In the same manner, biomass should have to be distinguished. Now, another thing is we may need to make a distinction of modern biomass and traditional biomass. So again, to take a cue from Santosh, he spoke of lazy investing. So what I find is that we have a lazy investing attitude of still continuing to invest on first generation biofuels, which, I'm not being critical of any particular geography or any particular government, but if I talk of ethanol, whether it's in the US or whether it's in India, we tend to take the easy option of fermenting sugars. Now, fermenting sugars was done actually more than 150 years ago. I think it was in 1855 or something when ethanol was produced to light lamps. So there's nothing so dramatic about fermenting sugars, And there's so much evolution that has taken place in the last 20 years in biotechnologies. You see, biotechnology had a focus on healthcare and agriculture. And it's really in the last 15 years that biotechnology focus towards energy has also come about, So we need to get out of this lazy investing thing to exposing us a little bit of risk. The other important thing is the terminology modern biomass. I first heard this in an IEA presentation in Marrakesh. They were trying to focus on bio-waste as modern biomass, okay? And even in end of March this year, the World Biogas Association, they made a presentation, they published a report which they presented to the UN Secretary General. And they said 105 billion tons of bio-waste is globally generated annually. That's a humongous number. They said if we just process a reasonable portion of this bio-waste, 10% of GHG emissions by 2030 will take place. So this is modern biomass. This is not lazy investing. Now, here is where the points that Namita made are very important, and Santosh actually about ESG finally getting mainstream. I feel that this is where when you convert bio-waste into a form of usable energy product which replaces fossil fuels without disruption. What you want is, I'm having devices which are using fossil fuels. Can you give me a product which is sustainable, low carbon, and replaces that, okay? So that is where this modern biomass and modern biotechnologies are coming in. And we can have a wide spectrum of such technologies. And honestly, really, if you take 2 weeks ago, was it 2 weeks ago, a fortnight ago, something where there was disruption. First was the Dutch court on Shell, and then the shareholders' activism on Exxon and Chevron. This is breathtaking. So what is going to happen is people are really going to start looking at disclosures with greater intensity. Most of our first generation biofuels will not stand the scrutiny of carbon footprint. I may just add, which is very interesting because I thought I'll share it with you, in our BRICS Business Council Energy and Green Economy Working Group, we have put a topic of carbon footprint. We have put a topic of green certification. And surprise, surprise, this has not come in this year under Indian presidency. It came in last year under Russian presidency. So, we are getting conscious. We can't run away from the fact of carbon footprint or, green certification, etc. And this will, of course, come in a far more sophisticated fashion under some ESG reporting. But when that comes in, that is the last cue I take from Santosh. Money will start chasing advanced biofuels. That is what's to happen. We need the pull factor. We need the pull factor coming in because the market demands and not the push factor. For too long, bioenergy, it takes me back to about something like 2006 or 7. I was speaking in a conference, I forget where, South Africa, Mozambique, and I was talking about bioenergy, and someone actually got up and made sir, why don't you want us to develop? So I said, I'm sorry. He says, no, development is progressing from bioenergy to fossil fuels, and you don't want us to develop. So for too long, the mindset was, oh my God, we're doing so much development, we're creating local jobs, we're helping farmers. No, I'm sorry. It doesn't work in today's world. Money chases what makes money or what is mandated. So when we can show that we meet more of the ESG metrics, out of the 17 SDGs, we probably will end up by meeting 10 of the SDGs. On greenhouse gas emissions abatement, we will have a far greater abatement than any other form of renewable energy when you process bio-waste to advanced biofuels. So when that happens, money will chase these technologies, these projects. So once again, I'll start by taking cues from Santosh. Just can be fair. But I personally feel this is, in the bioenergy sector, as I've said earlier, constantly extolling the socio-economic, environmental benefits is not going to cut much ice with Namita, and I won't blame her. If I was in her shoes, I would also have the same problems. Because ultimately, we are accountable to board, we are accountable to shareholders, etc. So we have to get into a situation of just now. Now, when the Dutch court has told Shell that 45% devolves on you, what the Dutch government has taken devolves on you, I'm sorry, Shell has got into a just now situation. Shell is supporting a 20-ton per day bioenergy project. It needs to. And I'm not talking only of Shells, I'm talking about the NGs, I'm talking about the large companies. There is a dramatic mindset change that has taken place in the last few months. The other thing is a true cost. True cost can only come from carbon pricing. I did a pioneering project in 2001. In 2002, the PPA was reneged. I went to the regulator and the distribution utility said they will honor it. They did not. But that happened to be the project that delivered the world's first gold standard CRs. And right up to 2012, we never sold below 20 euro a CER. So we were getting in about 350 to 400,000 euro on top of what should be a normal PPA. And that is what kept our head above water. So honestly speaking, the transition, even if you look at it, you read an analysis of, nations which are planning a hydrogen economy, anything. For every transition, there's a carbon cost. Canada says right now the carbon cost has to be $200 a ton. And by 2030, we hope to bring it down to $100 a ton. So there has to be the cost element. Now, when we talk of policy, there are two types of policies, Manish. One is a policy which is driven by governments. Another is a policy which is driven by markets. And I think this has become very important because of, hopefully Glasgow is going to be more open this year. Hopefully the Paris rule book is going to be approved. Hopefully Article 6 and in particular Article 6.4 will kick in. When that kicks in, we will be having a situation of, markets which can have a role to play. So what we have done as a first step under the BRICS Business Council, I'm underlining Business Council because as BRICS Business Council, we don't represent the nation, we recommend to the leaders. But actually, I must give credit to Omkar. It was his suggestion. He chairs the BRICS Business Council. So we have put together a note, and which all the regional chairs have approved, of establishing a clean energy fund under NDB. So if New Development Bank can invest, I think co-investing another 60%, 70% is not such a big problem. So that's the kind of framework we're working on.
Yeah.
The other thing that we have put a note to the government as a policy thing is highlighted all the pitfalls and the opportunities in net zero emissions. So that covers the complete ambit of, whether renewable electricity or biofuels or anything. As far as carbon price is concerned, let me say no NX2 country is going to accept the carbon price. That on the table will not be there for negotiation. We will try to keep hammering away the NX1 countries as agreed in the Kyoto Protocol and etc. However, there are, apart from the countries taking net zero emissions commitments in the last few months, there's 100 plus corporates, right? That's another thing. Now, whenever these commitments are taken, there is an internal carbon pricing taking place. In the case of EU, we have the advantage, there is the EU ETS. And the EU ETS has actually risen about 60 euro in the last few months. So you have, if the EU ETS is 65 euro, then you got an internal pricing of at least 100 euro, no? You're nowhere otherwise, So that's the good advantage. As far as Indian companies are concerned, we will only benefit from this carbon pricing of two things. Either the Indian corporates, whether it's the Infosys or the Mahindras, etc., who decide to take an internal carbon price and make investment based on that. The second thing is that it's a little hazy, God willing, it will not happen. But cross-border carbon tax is a issue. We will fight it tooth and nail against it. But the reverse will happen on a subsidiary of a EU company or a UK company operating in India. So under those circumstances, people are going to make investment decisions based on carbon. So frankly speaking, I see enormous business opportunity for Namita. I think carbon disclosures, reporting on ESG metrics is going to be there big time. And carbon pricing will come in whether overtly as a compliance thing or as an internal thing, and that will decide decisions. The only other thing that we are trying to do and to ease things for people like you all, if we succeed with New Development Bank, I think it makes it easier for people. If somebody does the due diligence and there's a $200 million project, $100 million project, New Development Bank has given $30 million. I think it's downside easier for you to co-finance it.